Maligayang pagbabalik sa Payo ng Abogado. Sa module na ito ay ating tatalakayan ang bawat isang aggravating circumstance. Simulan po natin sa number 1. That advantage be taken by the offender of his public position. Requisites are: number 1. Crime is committed by a public officer or employee using his or her public position. And number 2. Advantage of his or her position was taken in the commission of the crime. Public officer means any person holding any public office in the government of the Republic of the Philippines by virtue of an appointment, election, or contract. Plunder is one of the examples of a crime which can be committed by a public officer and that he or she took advantage of the public position to amass, accumulate, or acquire ill-gotten wealth through a combination or series of overt or criminal acts in the aggregate amount or total value of at least 50 million pesos. Number 2. That the crime be committed in contempt or with insult to the public authorities. No respect to public authorities is clearly an aggravating circumstance. To consider this aggravating circumstance, the public officer should perform its duties within the bounds of law and within the ethical standards imposed on public authorities. The Supreme Court of Spain has held that the circumstance of contempt of or insult to public authority can exist only when such authority is engaged in the exercise of its functions. Number 3. That the act be committed with insult or in disregard of the respect to the offended party on account of his rank, age, or sex, or that it be committed in the dwelling of the offended party if the latter has not given provocation. The term rank should be given its plain ordinary meaning, and as such refers to a high social position or standing as a grade in the armed forces, or to a graded official standing or social position or station, or to the order or place in which said officers are placed in the Army and Navy in relation to others, or to the designation or title of distinction conferred upon an officer in order to fix his relative position in reference to other officers in matters of privileges, precedence, and sometimes of command, or by which to determine his pay and emoluments as in the case of Army staff officers, or to a grade or official standing, relative position in civil or social life, or in any scale of comparison, status, grade, including its grade, status, or scale of in comparison within a position. The aggravating circumstance of disregard of rank should be appreciated because it is obvious that the victim, Police Chief Lieutenant Masana, identified himself as a police chief officer to the accused, who is merely a member of the anti-smuggling unit and therefore inferior both in rank and social status to the victim. Thus, rank aggravated the killing of a staff sergeant by his corporal, the killing of the Assistant Chief of Personnel Transaction of the Civil Service Commission by clerk therein, the murder by a pupil of his teacher, the murder of a municipal mayor, the murder of a city chief of police by the chief of the Secret Service Division, assault upon a 66-year-old district judge of the Court of First Instance by a justice of the peace, the killing of a Spanish consul by his subordinate, a mere chancellor, and the killing of an army general. Number 4. That the act be committed with abuse of confidence or obvious ungratefulness. For the existence of this circumstance, it is necessary that there exist a relation of trust or confidence between the person committing the crime and the one against whom it is committed, and that the former make use of such relation to commit the crime. For example, a kasambahay took away all the jewelries of his or her amo. Number 5, that the crime be committed in the palace of the chief executive or in his presence, or where public authorities are engaged in the discharge of their duties, or in a place dedicated to religious worship. Any person should give respect to the President of the Republic of the Philippines or to any public authorities. Accordingly, no crime should be committed in the palace of the chief executive or in his presence, or where public authorities are engaged in the discharge of their duties. Likewise, in a place dedicated to religious worship, there should be no crime committed inside of it. This aggravating circumstance refers to a place where the crime was committed. Hence, it is necessary that the president is in the palace. It must be pointed out that this aggravating circumstance is based on the greater perversity of the offender, as shown by the place of the commission of the crime, which must be respected. Number 6, that the crime be committed in the nighttime or in an inhabited place or by a band whenever such circumstances may facilitate the commission of the offense. Whenever more than 3 armed malefactors shall have acted together in the commission of an offense, it shall be deemed to have been committed by a band. Nighttime is aggravating circumstance if the accused intended the said time. It is aggravating because nighttime is generally a resting time, and this time should be respected. Likewise, during nighttime, there may be no people who can be a witness for the government. Hence, any person who did not respect nighttime should be given an additional time of imprisonment for the crime he or she committed. Nocturnity is aggravating when it is purposely and deliberately sought. Nocturnity is aggravating when it is purposely and deliberately sought by the accused to facilitate the commission of the crime, or to prevent their being recognized, or to ensure unmolested escape. Nocturnidad must concur with the intent and design of the offender to capitalize on the intrinsic impunity afforded by the darkness of night. In the case at bar, the affidavit of the accused Abduhan shows that he and his co-malefactors took advantage of the night time in the perpetration of the offense, as they waited until it was dark before they came out of their hiding place to consummate their criminal designs. For nocturnity to be properly appreciated, it must be shown that it facilitated the commission of the crime, and that it was purposely sought for by the offender. By in itself, nighttime is not an aggravating circumstance. In the instant case, no sufficient evidence was offered to prove that accused appellant deliberately sought the cover of darkness to accomplish his criminal design. Nighttime is absorbed in treachery. Except in special cases, nighttime and treachery always go together and are absorbed in the same offense. Nighttime cannot be considered as an aggravating circumstance and independent of that of treachery and abuse of superior strength. Number 7, that the crime be committed on the occasion of conflagration, shipwreck, earthquake, epidemic, or other calamity or misfortune. The reason for the existence of this circumstance is found in the debased form of criminality met in one who, in the midst of a great calamity, instead of lending aid to the afflicted, adds to their suffering by taking advantage of their misfortune to despoil them. Number 8, that the crime be committed with the aid of armed men or persons who ensure or afford impunity. Armed men. There are 2 or more persons and each of them are carrying a gun, bladed weapon, or other blunt instruments like golf club or softball bat and others. The law says men or persons. Hence, it means several persons and not only one. Direct or indirect participation in the commission of the crime. The mere casual presence of armed men, more or less numerous, near the place of the occurrence does not constitute an aggravating circumstance when it appears that the defendant did not avail himself in any way of their aid and did not knowingly count upon their assistance in the commission of the crime. It is true that in the house near the place where the victim was committed, there were 10 men armed with daggers according to the statements of the witness referred to, and 5 without arms according to the accused. But as they find that this circumstance concurred in the commission of the crime prosecuted for the purpose of augmenting the criminal responsibility of the accused. Natalakay natin ang unang 8 aggravating circumstances. Sundan natin ang iba pa sa susunod na video. Thank you!